we heal as a team, we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is December 14th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole, and I'm your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Yes, I am back. I took a few days off. Last Friday, Joe Joseph sat in for me. Last Wednesday, you heard my special interview with Judith Ferry Baker, which I must say was just filled with shocking information. It even kind of blew me away. And on Sunday, I did my first live show here from the new Federal Jack bunker, but I didn't have my my board operating. I didn't have my broadcasting headset on, set up, or anything. Everything was still packed up, so I was operating from a laptop. But tonight, I am pleased to tell you I have the command center here about 70%, 72% operational right now. More than operational enough to do my show. So, welcome back. Welcome back to me. I needed to take a few days off. I probably could have been back online. I haven't even updated Federal Jack in a few days. I needed to unplug for a couple of days. In fact, my guest and I were discussing that. And without wasting any more time, I'll get right into the conversation we were having. But let me get my guest on and introduce her. Now, you all know who she is. She's a friend of the program and a Federal Jack, and a friend of mine. She's a great researcher and an all-around awesome lady. And she's been on the show before. I'd like to welcome back Carolyn Rose Goyda. Carolyn, say hello to listeners.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to have Popeye back on, too. I know, gosh, I just thought that the Men in Black finally got you and we're, sweating it out, Actually, I was kind of hoping I was in your I was kind of hoping I was in your will. I'd like to get the radio stuff from you when you pass on, so,
Yeah, I'm sure some people. I had said that I was moving and that I was, taking off, and I was going to have a couple. I said last week that my show was going to be the pre-recorded interview I did, and I had actually had a different interview planned for Friday that I had pre-recorded, but we had technical difficulties. So at the last minute, two of my fellow hosts here on Orion stepped up to the plate. Both of them veterans, with like maybe 45 minutes notice, both of them stepped up and filled my spot for me on Friday. So I really have to say thanks to Joe and Ken. And then Sunday I did my show live, but like I told you, I really haven't posted the Federal Jack or anything because I've been busy unpacking, setting up my new place, and just Monday and Tuesday I needed to take off. I needed to relax. I needed to unplug. I've been doing this for so long without unplugging from it. I'm always doing this 365, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I never unplug. Even for holidays, I don't unplug. I interviewed Judith on Thanksgiving, so I'm always running around cramming stuff in, and I just needed 2 days where, Monday I was just so sore from moving. I didn't want to do anything. And yesterday I have to honestly admit, I sat and for my birthday was recently, past like 2 weeks. And I had my wife got me this little Roku box. You can like stream Hulu and Netflix, and I have a Netflix account. So I have to admit, yesterday I sat and I watched the boob tube all day and did nothing. It was the first time I did that, in a long time. I didn't watch cable or anything like that. I went through Netflix and picked out some things to watch. But I got to I had to unplug. You know what I mean, Carolyn? Like, you need to sometimes just unplug or else you go like insane. Am I right?
Oh, you totally go insane. I had that kind of day to day. That's why I checked with you to make sure we were still on the air today. I was going through all my legal books, trying to get stuff done, and then I was on Facebook because, I throw out about 30 to 100 things a day. I drive people insane, but I was doing all kinds of stuff. And today, is it a full moon? It's not a full moon, but I think it's a full moon. And I'm like you, too. It's like sometimes you just got to back off and just say, gosh, everybody lighten up, because I had a day today where I posted a Celine Dion and Barbra Streisand song, and somehow that freaked out some people that didn't like either of them. And I was telling all my Supernatural fans that I said, oh, wow, maybe she's back being a lounge singer in Quebec. And then somebody else was giving me marriage proposals, and then I had about 15 guys poking at me. They really like poking on Facebook. And it was like, I actually considered just like, shutting down the computer and just like, taking a real long walk down the highway, because today is a weird day in mid-Missouri. It's been cold and miserable, and it's been raining, but it smells like spring. It's like 45, 50, and it's like a really weird springtime day. So I was like kind of having like twilight when I woke up from a nap thinking, God, how long did I sleep? Like Rumpelstiltskin, it was like, maybe I should just turn the computer off. Everybody's gone crazy, and if you're
I've
off
had those
for a
days
couple hours,
where you don't know you don't know your ass from your elbow when you wake up. You don't know what time of day it is. You're totally just out of it. You're like, huh? Where?
And everybody was like, yeah, and everybody freaks out. Like, where are you? You okay? Because you've got things where you stir up the pot, and you got people after you. Certain hotel chains won't even let your website through, and I'm sitting here with death threats every other day, so it's kind of a, I got to admit, and I'm at a no-hotel motel, which, like I said, is going to make the best Stephen King, like a Britcom is what it needs to be, because, oh, gosh, there's fire engines, policemen, people, well, the average hookers and all the other stuff you see at a no-hotel motel. So it's like every once in a while, in the middle of
things.
What's that? Well, I'm in the middle of a chat with a bunch of people, and I'll have to say, wait a minute, I got to go out. There's police at the door, or just a minute, there's a ambulance next door, or hey, hang on, the hooker next door wants to borrow some change, things like that. So people tend to freak out when I'm not on for a couple hours, or God forbid if I'm gone for 2 days. But I kind of like the love and the concern, but every once in a while you go a little nuts. That's why I'll let the listeners know that before we got on, I had to go to the front desk, get my key renewed, and the front desk was so nice. The gal up here, Barb, I hope she's listening. She's the neatest person at the Travelodge. She gave me some cookies, and they're still warm. She just baked them. And so I got coffee, but I knew we were going to talk tonight, so I went across the street, I counted out my change, and I got 4 Colt 45. So if anybody else is listening, opening yours up too at the same time, because I figured...
Crack your Colt 45, Carolyn.
Yeah. This is live radio, and we need special effects. There you go.
There you go.
I saved that for special effects. I've been waiting to open that sucker, I tell you. And I've got the coffee and the cookies.
That was perfect timing, too, because we're going to break as you crack your beer.
That's it. Hey, anybody gives me any crap, remember, Jesus made water into wine, not the other way around.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes it's good to take a few days off and get some perspective on things. I'm not saying that you have to completely tune out of reality. I did keep an eye on things, but I had to get a few things settled, and sometimes the only way to do it is to unplug. I completely ignored my phone yesterday. You know, I didn't care. If it was super important, somebody could text message me, and I would see it, and then I could be like, all right, I'll call them back. But if you called me yesterday and I ignored you, it was nothing personal, but I needed to get some stuff done, and I just needed to get my brain back in functioning capacity. Sometimes you need to take a couple days off and just go, or do what Carolyn just did and crack a Colt 45. Actually, I think we need to be cracking a few more Colt 45s after today. You remember when...
Lando Calrissian drinks Colt 45. Don't give me any crap.
You remember when, well, speaking of Landau, you remember when another shyster said that he would veto the military defense authorization, the spending bill? That pretty much says the military can come black bag American citizens. Yeah, Obama didn't do that. He did quite the opposite and signed it into law today. So...
Oh, you mean the CIA operative, old Boo? Well, you know, you got to realize, you know, when your mom is a CIA operative, you're a CIA operative, and, you know, your grandpappy back in Kenya helped kill the last elected official in Kenya, and your daddy got a free ride, you know, to come over here and get your mom knocked up because of what your daddy did. You know, you're going to do whatever they tell you to do because he's not calling any shots. He's like the equivalent of Bush 43, you know? The only difference is they haven't put him on a plane and fly him to New Orleans and then Nebraska. I mean, Boo has no clue. I mean, he didn't care about what was going on in the Gulf. You know, Corexic's still being dumped by C-130s. I've got friends that are sending me pictures all the time on my Facebook page. Go there,
you're
folks.
one of them conspiracy theorists, huh? That believes,
yeah, you know.
You believe that, you know, the people in the Gulf, you know, that are saying that they're still spraying. You just believe those people. You don't believe that the government is you know, it's your best interest, Carolyn.
Hey, I just believe the photos people keep sending me live, and they're actually, you know, down on.
It's actually very upsetting. I know what you're talking about. They keep spraying.
Yeah,
those people get sicker and sicker every day, and this is criminal. This is eugenics type crap at its finest.
Well, and they're not only killing people; they're killing the Gulf. And, you know, I get people that are on the boats sending me pictures, and I forward them to other people because, you know, you got to protect people on the boat. Because some of the people out on the boat are used to be shrimpers, used to be fishers, and, you know, they can't do it anymore because these fisheries are dead. You know, they were getting killed by what was coming down through the Mississippi already from all the fertilizer and pesticide and herbicides. Well, okay, now they continue to dump Corexit out these C-130s at a rate that has to be genocidal. I mean, it's like you have to be trying to, I don't know what the word is to kill a marine life. You know, there's no genocide word for that. But you know what? I know a great gal we got to get on. She used to be the key person for promoting it. She's an older gal. We got to get her on before she goes, you know, hits the wall. She's a great gal because, you know, people don't understand that the Gulf, it was the largest carbon sink in the world. It was one of the healthiest ecosystems. It produced one of the largest percentage of oxygen released from that area for the whole planet. I mean, seriously, it stood up against anywhere else in the world. I mean, first of all, it was obscene that they put, 80 million of these platforms up. And even when they close them, they continue to leak. And this big thing that happened in April with the Horizon, I did a big thing on my Facebook page at the time, and nobody would believe me. Before it happened, I was telling people that I said, hey, Transoceanic is actually owned. It's a CIA front, folks. There's a problem here. They're trying to go deeper than they've ever gone before. They're being warned not to do it. All the engineers are saying don't do it. And I looked into all the people that own the company that were in charge of building the Horizon. It was built over in Korea. It was brought here, but the people in charge of it, everybody that put it there, these are all ex-military intelligence, all CIA people. They all made millions, and each of them walked away with tons of money. And the weeks before the massive leak, they all left, retired, or took golden handshakes so that new people were in there. And I was telling people, I said, "Dan, there's this is something fishy going on here. This thing should not be going on." So then when it happened, when I was getting pictures from people from our Navy that were down there, and little submarines were taking pictures. This wasn't, everybody was seeing this like one little leaking pump, that looked like somebody's, backyard thing that you got to just turn a little tighter and it'll stop. No. There's a rip in the Gulf because what they hit was a methane pocket, and it basically exploded. Remember there were some like quakes in the...
I saw the videos. Did you see the videos of the sea floor where kind of like it looked like the sea floor burped? Like it went up, like the sea floor rose up like a good, I'd say 10, 15 feet, and then dropped back down. And I mean, the camera caught it. It just went bloop, boom.
Right. Well, from Christmas till Easter, there were all these like weird earthquakes that people said, well, that's really unusual. We're having earthquakes in the Gulf. Well, what it was is they had hit this pocket and they knew it. And what they wound up doing is that methane bubble, they had to be doing it on purpose. I mean, or else they just had to be absolute morons because, they've released, these people have been trying to get all the information out, showing that all these engineers were going, hey, guys, we're getting all this methane leak and it's registering and we're getting, seismic readings. Something's going to happen. Well, it did. It made a rip. So it's like, they showed this, we're going to put a bell over it. We're going to do this, and all this. In the meantime, the rip got bigger. And there's like 50 other
pissing in the wind. They weren't doing anything. They were standing in the wind, pissing right into it. And then wondering why their legs were getting wet. Gee, why am I getting covered in urine? Because you're pissing into the headwind, moron.
There's at least 50 platforms leaking right now. Literally, seriously. And, there's all we can, we could spend 5 hours just on that thing. But the worst part is, because you got to get to the core, because, okay, we know it happened. I believe it was intentionally done. Just like at the same time, there were massive leaks off of Nigeria that has destroyed one of the largest fisheries in all of Africa in Nigeria. It's owned by Shell Oil. They string up everybody in Dutch Shell. Okay, there's also one going on really close to the reef off Australia. There's one that's massive off of fascist China. Okay, so they're destroying these healthy seabeds that were like just incredible ecosystems that, like I said, they were carbon sinks. And what that means is that basically, because there's so much green life there, kelp and algae and all this other stuff, okay, it sucks all this, bullshit carbon, this, global warming, Gore, give me a hand job, Al Gore, he wants to get a Grammy. He's the only thing he's missing at this point. It's like it would actually absorb the carbon that all they want to, give you a tax for. the Gulf and all the sea off of China that they've destroyed, the area off of Australia, the area off of Nigeria. These things not only absorbed all this so-called greenhouse gases, they were putting off the oxygen that we all need. So this is not by accident because
it's almost like they're trying to kill off life on the planet, Carolyn. I agree. It's almost like it's a planned out, military precision strike with different things. We got the break coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. More with Carolyn Rose Goyda when we get back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And Carolyn and I were talking about the BP oil spill and the ongoing effects. I should actually say not spill, because that's not the correct terminology. Let's say massive oil leak. And we were discussing how all these different oil leaks and catastrophes and everything else are happening around the world in certain specific spots. Now, Carolyn, you postulated that they're going after specific spots because of how they deal with the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Or was it carbon? No, it's carbon monoxide. Carbon dioxide is the stuff that comes out of cars, right? Or do I have it reversed?
It doesn't matter. It's both. But, the most important part is it produces oxygen for the planet. And
but that's where these spots... These spots are like scrubbers, right? They clean all this crap out and they kind of produce clean oxygen.
That's a perfect description. Scrubber is a perfect description. They were just absolutely pristine and also just perfect ecosystems. Take it in, put it out, and the Caribbean was among the most critical. It really was the number one oxygen producer. Everybody thinks about the Amazon. They say, the Amazon did it. The Brazilian. No, bullshit. The ocean does it. And everybody doesn't think that, but seriously, everybody think, well, wait a minute, there's no trees in the ocean. No, I'm sorry, folks. There's kelp and there's algae, and there really is a chemical interaction across our planet. It is actually a very healthy planet if they leave it to F alone,
Well, can you imagine what's on the bottom of the... We haven't even explored the sea floor. And realistically, we haven't done anything. Okay, we've had a couple unmanned submersibles go down. Wow. Whoop the effing do. We spend more time building stuff to kill each other than we do worrying about actually exploring the planet and checking it out. And what is it, like 70% or 65% or something like that of the planet, its mass is water, like the surface area?
Well, we didn't even plan on getting off on this subject today. This is not what we were going to talk about. But I'm going to tell you this, because when I used to work where I worked at, and I had clearances, I'm going to tell you there's a hell of a lot more research going on in the ocean than they tell us. It's just like everywhere else, okay? They have, the submarines, and there's submarine bases that, that are on the floor, that like on the West Coast, that actually do kind of come in. But there is so much more research being done than they admit. They finally started admitting and showing the pictures of that there's life around the sulfur vents, that there's life around the volcanic vents, because life itself will find a way, to use whatever energy source there is, whether it's, the sulfur vents, whether it's, photosynthesis from the sun, whether it's anything. Life is actually very common in the multiverse, if you will. And on our own planet, it's everywhere. And right now the planet is what, 3/4 water? So all the seas and oceans, and if you're hearing cats, they're going nuts here. There is so much more being done on the ocean floor, and they know about this. Just like in the Antarctic, everybody wants to pretend that was a dead zone. But no, that's why the Nazis spent, literally years down there.
New Schwabenland, New Schwabia. They found, what was the name of that? What was the name of that lake? Vostok.
There's flowing rivers. There is area.
Yeah, they found green, luscious jungles. They said you'd be flying along and it'd be ice, nothing, just desolate ice for hundreds of miles. And all of a sudden, there was this area where, it was like if you were in South Florida. Palm trees, animals running around, grass.
Well, I don't know about the palm trees, but I can tell you, I posted on my page a page from Antarctica's own live camera. It was in this last week, and they were showing penguin pictures, okay? Okay, the penguin is sitting there among tall grass. It wasn't sitting there in a snow tundra, okay? It wasn't sitting there on an iceberg. It was sitting there and nothing else around it but grass. Now, this was a live picture taken from the British Antarctic webcam. And I posted it, sent it out to everybody going, hey, does anybody else see green stuff in this picture? I mean, you know, and it's like, then all of a sudden they got upset because then people started looking at their live webcam. And then all of a sudden they said, technical difficulties, we can no longer show this picture, you know. But it was like, before they did, I mean, everybody got to see this. Here's a bunch of penguins, and it's grass. I mean, it's like that, you know, sort of like, what do they call that? Like swag grass, you know, the tall grass. I mean, I'm not talking about the lawn grass you're going to see at a golf course. I'm talking about just, you know, the wild grass that you see. And here's a bunch of penguins, and they're down in the Antarctic. Now, has anybody ever seen a picture of the Antarctic with grass? It's just like the stuff from Mars that, you know, we've known for decades, probably, I'm sure, probably going back farther than that. You see all these blue images, that's a blue algae, and they knew that for a long time. And it's like that we've known for a long time that there's life on the bottom of various areas in the ocean because, you know, life is remarkable. Life is a miracle. It will find a way. And something will always fill the niche, you know? And it's like, it's amazing to me. But it's like, I get upset when they keep this stuff secret. Because I think, and they said, oh, people can't handle it. People can't take it. BS. We want to know this because this is the stuff that gives people hope and makes them understand and also gets them to have more concern. We don't have to be like, you know, like I said, give me a hand job gore about, you know, crazy golf, you know, oh, you know, it's global warming. No, just we don't need to have the UN or any of these other, you know, fascist organizations want to take over the planet.
The internet gore.
Oh, yeah. He's
with his, oh, my drowning polar bears. He doesn't mention to tell people that polar bears swim. You know, like 100 miles out to sea looking for food.
I'm glad
don't bother
Chipper told him
that, right?
But it's like, you know, if people would understand just how remarkable it is. And this is one of those things, because I've got a couple things in my photo albums on Facebook because there's a new image. It's almost a little bit creepy because not only are they seen to be terraforming our planet with more radiation all over the place and also, you know, killing these carbon sinks in the oxygen producing areas, whether it's the Amazon or the Gulf or the sea off of China or around the reef in Australia and off of Nigeria. Nobody cares about Nigeria. They're black people, so what do we care? You know, it's like, who cares about all these people? Or, you know, that the Dutch Shell will not explain why they're letting the oil just keep leaking like nobody cares, because who's ever heard about that? I mentioned it today on the radio. I put it on my Facebook page. I've got friends in Nigeria on my Facebook page that are sending me live pictures. But you don't see it on
people will tell you they've never heard of such a thing before, and it's because they're who controls the media? The same people that, you know, make messes like this and you know, turn people's native lands into toxic cesspools and then act like, hey, not our problem. Look what Coca-Cola did, you know, down in South America and in Central America.
Oh.
They destroyed,
big, you know,
all those huge Coca-Cola bottling plants. You see what they did, right? They poisoned all these water supplies with all the crap that they dumped into it.
That's by intention. You know, and it's like originally, even like the original Coca-Cola formula was a lot healthier formula. It used the raw cocoa leaves, and you really got, that's where the Coca-Cola word came from. And it didn't kill anybody. Nobody ever died from the original Coca-Cola. And, you know, please, I don't recommend anybody use any powders or pills. I'm absolutely adamantly against those. If something is natural, that's fine. You know, you want to sit there and you want to chew on cocoa leaves like the Incas did, I'm more power to you. Send me some. If you want to, you know, smoke pot, make a tea, whatever you want to. If it's natural, fine. But avoid any of these processed stuff. And God, for God's sakes, don't take something that some moron that dropped out of high school, you know, in 8th grade, made in his garage, and stick it in your nose, and it's sending it straight to your head. But, we're talking about you're talking about Coca-Cola and all the stuff they're doing with the bottling stuff. Well, right now, what is the current Coca-Cola is just a big, huge transnational that's owned by the banksters. And their whole goal is, it's just like with the plastic water, bottles. They wanted to tell everybody, oh, you shouldn't drink water. Here,
Coke has phosphoric acid in it. And,
but there was
in my interview with Judith, she even says if you're going to drink a Coca-Cola, you should make sure that you take a calcium, like a big dose of calcium, because the phosphoric acid will actually literally eat away your bones and diminish your... Well, that's true. I bet you Colt 45 doesn't have phosphoric acid in it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final segment of the first hour. In hour number 2, I possibly will open the phone lines up. I have to get everything set up, but I will have perhaps I'll take a few phone calls during the second hour, so stay tuned for that. But right now, I want to get back in because Carolyn and I can, I love having her on because we can just sit and talk about a bazillion things. I want to focus for a few more minutes on the Gulf oil disaster, let's call it. Let's not call it a spill or anything like that. There's something that's not really getting focused on is the health of these people today. As of right now, if you go on YouTube, I forget the name of the channel, but one of the workers was doing a channel and she was doing like daily vlogs of her and her fellow coworkers of how their health was progressing and it was just getting worse. I admittedly do not remember the name of the channel. You can look it up. Just Google that. I'm sure you'll find it. But you can see that these people are not really, the media is, they got their fingers in their ears, their blinders on and the hand over their mouth. They don't want to talk about it. And these people's health is just getting worse and worse and worse. In fact, if anybody listening knows anybody in the Gulf, and they want to get their story out or they want to get, the truth out, they want to come on, tell them to email me at info@federaljack.com, info@federaljack.com, and I'll set up having them come on the show, and they can talk about what's going on. They don't have to use their real name. They could use a cover name if they, don't want to get in trouble and there's someone on the inside. I can respect that, so feel free. Okay, Carolyn, what do you think we can do to reverse this? I mean, there's got to be, obviously we would have to, I personally, my theory is we have to take the New World Order down and then put the world, most brilliant minds to work on this stuff. That would be that would be a quick, easy, you know what I mean? It's easier said than done, but that's what I would, at least in my mind, has to be done first. Because you have to be able to tell these, you know what I mean? You have to be able to convince these smart people that that's what their goal should be to focus on, rather than building laser weapons to eradicate each other and bombs and missiles and rockets and all this other horse shit, right?
All right. Well, first of all, we're trying to eradicate something that's being done deliberate in the first place. So first of all, we need to get to the core of stopping it from continuing to happen. I mean, they're continuing to do the Corexit, and they're lying about doing it. While Obama's taken 17 days in Hawaii to so-called have a, holiday. We don't want to upset him. He's having a good day. A good, almost 2.5 weeks. But the thing is, what do we need to do? Well, the thing is, first of all, we need to stop it from being done. I mean, these things are not done by accident. It's like the guy, even with the Valdez, okay? When you look into it, why would you put a guy in charge of a massive tanker that had at least 5 violations before, unless you wanted to have it happen and have a patsy as the captain of the ship? Okay? And then you
That's
have...
a good point.
Right,
That's
and then you have the Gulf.
Like, you wouldn't give this guy a driver's license to drive to the local 7-Eleven, but you let him drive a tanker full of oil?
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, okay, what's happening in Nigeria is being done on purpose, because that is actually where there's like 5 rivers that come together and then they pour into the ocean. And then these, pardon me, what's the appropriate word? Can I say the word dick on the radio? These people.
Yeah, go ahead. Say it loud and proud.
They put these wells, okay, right in this core area where 5 rivers, core rivers in Africa, are pouring into the ocean, which has been a vital, beautiful ecosystem. Why would you put an oil well there when, first of all, we don't eat oil? Hemp oil, which was the first thing that Henry Ford put in his vehicles, his Model Ts. There's absolutely no reason why any vehicle doesn't run on alcohol. There's hydrogen, there's water. There are so many other ways to power our vehicles. But even if you want petroleum, there is no reason why to risk vital ecosystems, except it is being done on purpose. It has to be, because there are huge sources underneath South and North Dakota that they're not going after. Other places are refilling because, petroleum, folks, is not Dino the dinosaur, turning into petroleum, folks. Now, coal really is like Piedmont and everything else finally, degenerating and everything else. But oil has nothing to do with Dino the dinosaur. Okay, this is a natural product that's within the underground part of the planet. Probably has more to do. It's probably like the limbic system in our bodies. It's got to do with lubricating the tectonic plates because that's where they find the most of it. So it's probably a natural function within a living planet. And I know people saying, "Oh God, now she's in a Gaia. She's a green weirdo." No, we're not saying anything. We don't even have to go there. But this is a living planet. And what that means is, yeah, it's evolving. You got volcanoes. You got plates that are moving and all and things are, it is a living planet. Living means that it's changing, it's evolving. And most petroleum, if you ever look into the major sources, are, they say, where do we find it? Look where tectonic plates are. That's why you see them fracking their brains out in Southern California, causing earthquakes and everything else, like around that peninsula, they're right off the tip of California. It's because, why is there so much oil there? Right, you have tectonic plates coming together, right. So what would the planet have there? The planet has oil there as a lubricant. Think, folks, think, okay? And then, look, everywhere you see the most amount of oil, it's where tectonic plates are banging into each other. Sorry, got to break up some kitty cats here. Maybe they wanted to get my Colt 45. These cats are jealous. But, these things, people got to pay attention to this.
What's your cat's name, Carolyn?
We're not going to say how many cats are here. Because I got a friend's cat, too. I'm rescuing her because her father's had a brain tumor.
Crazy cat, Lady Carolyn. You can tell the radio listeners it's okay.
I don't have any qualms against that. Just like, when people think, people say you shouldn't drink. And like I said, and I don't mean to offend any of the religious people listening. I realize there's some people, in various religions that don't. That's fine. But as I say, okay, Jesus made water.
It's 11 o'clock at night. I don't expect any. I expect if someone's going to come on and hang out, I expect them to at least, maybe have a cup of coffee or something or whatever lubricates their palate. Because it's 2 hours. It's a long period of time. So, there's a difference between somebody getting sloshed or having a couple beers. You know what I'm saying? Just like there's a difference between having a cup of coffee or a few cups of coffee or drinking an entire pot of coffee.
Well, and they got to understand, okay, because I've been through a lot. I was in Chernobyl when it happened, so I've got a lot of bone problems. I've had a broken neck, broken back, broken tailbone, broken shoulder, broken hip, several broken fingers, and beer is an excellent source of calcium.
Remind the listeners again what happened in Chernobyl, one really quick, and how you got affected.
Well, when I happened to be there, Chernobyl was sort of like almost like a foretelling of what was going to happen in Fukushima, but I don't believe that Chernobyl was an accident either. And I was there when it happened. I was there for a totally different reason. I just happened to be in the Soviet Union at the time. And when it happened, we didn't even know. I mean, and if anybody really is scared to death, don't be scared to death, okay, folks? Because I actually did not even know about the full extent of Chernobyl while I was there. Because, obviously when you're there, you have to be careful. It was the Soviet Union at the time, okay? It wasn't the current Russia. It wasn't the current Ukraine. I was supposed to go to the Ukraine. It was canceled because of what was happening. And I actually sat in Finland, had the best roast of my life, and I apologize. It's probably related to Rudolph. It was a reindeer. I'm sorry. But that's their version of beef cattle. And I got one of the last irradiated reindeer hides out of there.
What does reindeer taste like? Is it leaner than regular beef?
Excellent. Because it's raised like a herd animal. But they everybody in Scandinavia raises their animals at, they allow them to raise as herd animals still, that they're out there, they're in a herd, they're eating grass. They're not raised like factory farm animals here. I mean, who wants to eat an animal that's stressed out so that you're eating these horrible hormones? Folks, if you think, well, I don't care, I just want to eat the chicken, I don't care. But, do you really want the hormones that are happening to an animal that's terrorized? Because, you're getting the fear and the anger hormones and the pain hormones. I wish there was photosynthesis that we never had to eat another animal ever, okay? But, hey, I don't know if the goddamn lettuce I'm eating or the cauliflower is upset that we're ripping that out of the ground. But, I mean, we don't do photosynthesis, so we are going to eat, cauliflower. We're going to eat a sweet potato. And unfortunately, I really love bacon. And I know that pigs are smarter than dogs. Nobody send me messages.
Carolyn, I got to cut you off right there because we're gonna go to the top of the hour break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for hour number 2. We might even take a call or two. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for hour number 2 of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com, and tonight I'm hanging out with my buddy, Carolyn Rose Goyda. And first hour, we were getting a little bit heavy into the BP Gulf oil disaster and a few other things. And now I wanted to touch back on a multiple subject, or a subject I should say that both of us have worked on independently. So it's one person, but multiple investigators, and that would be Judith Vary Baker. I just aired my interview I did with her last week. Now, Carolyn, you had an interview with her as well. And the first day that I had an interview with her, we had some major connection problems, and you had the same thing going on, did you not? You guys were getting disconnected. In fact, you guys had a worse time than we did, if I recall.
Oh, yeah, we just got totally wiped out, and I wound up I was exhausted from the night before because that was the first day that I was trying to learn the Skype software. I was trying to do a bunch of other things. I was reading legal books, and we had the whole show set up, and we had 4 hours set up to talk about everything because we were going to get into the weaponization of cancer. We were getting into Lee Harvey Oswald and her relationship. But I wanted to do it from a female perspective, too, because I wanted people to know that she was a real human being, and so was he. And I had done a whole bunch of research. So, we were ready. And, gosh, like I said, I used to produce Veritas, did some things for Out There TV. So, I had a whole script and everything. We couldn't do anything. Phone wouldn't work. Everything came down. And literally, Type 1 radio, which is, by the way, if anybody wants to listen to it, it's just a fun thing. Right now, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Nobody pays anything. Nobody's getting
give yourself a shameless plug. Go ahead.
This is not just for me. This is for it started out with
the whole little thing, the whole show you guys do, and your whole crew. Go ahead, plug it.
All right, I'm just going to give you about a 3-minute plug here because the Friendship Agenda is www.friendshipagenda.com. They were all friends of Freeman, and I did a show with Freeman, and so I got on his, basically it's a social network thing, and Sonic and Ficheck and Steve Gaddafi, and there's Jay Lawson, all these guys, Resets out there, Eddie is just super, I know Eddie probably doesn't want me to use his name, but all these guys are so cool. And Eddie's listening now. He just sent me something on Facebook. The lounge is normally on Saturday afternoon, nighttime in London, and that way we all talk and everybody gets to talk. We've had everybody from Judy Wood on. We had Kevin Annette, who did the genocide thing in Canada. If we want to talk about that, I can tell you about that because Kevin and I have been talking, and I'm actually going to do some speaking things with him. And Santos Bonacci, who's also on the same network you're on, we were on with him the other night, and I'm going to be doing some things with him. He's a very good musician, by the way. But none of these things are making money, and everybody's just doing it for free. Because right now, that's just all just getting information out. So normally that's Saturday at 3:00 Central. This week it just happens to be on Friday because some of the folks in England, they all got a Christmas thing on Saturday, so they push it to Friday. So go on. The biggest thing is go on my Facebook page, Carolyn Rose Goyda, Goyda. There aren't many of us out there, so there's only like 3 Goydas on the whole book. And you can find me. I post all the time. I put like 30 to 100 things a day. And I mean, I put music too, and music from everything from symphony to, I got a great guy, David Chamberlain, I'm serious. He's going to be the next hot country western guy. He's a cool guy. He's a veteran because I actually respect people that, did serve. I always thank them because they find out later, it's like everybody wanted to protect the country, then they find out what really happens. He's an ex-veteran. He's a country western guy from Oklahoma. He's a great guy. Sonic does great music stuff. I've got a concert pianist in Moscow that puts fresh music on. Plus, I just have fun. I'll push fun things on there, and I got like 5,000 friends out there, and I wish we could have more because the friends I've got go from Iceland to Korea to Nigeria to Jordan, and like when things were going in Israel, I've got friends in Israel and Gaza at the same time. We had Cynthia McKinney on. Everybody was on my page at the same time. So what we try to do is try to protect the page so that, nobody reports us and gets us wiped out of there. But we, and no F-bombs, folks, and everybody agree to disagree, and no personal attacks of any kind to the individuals that are saying it. Now, if you want to say that, Bush is a Nazi, well, we all know that, and want to talk about those things, we put that out there. But, go there, and any shows that are coming up, I'll put on there. And that includes your show, Popeye, and also Bob Tuskin, who I really admire, and the Intel Hub, and Frater X, who's got his own show on Saturdays. And there's a whole bunch of really cool people out there. And I do listen to Alex Jones. I do listen to other people because I think all the radio people, especially on the internet, need to work together to promote each other because even if we don't all agree, we got to work really, really, really hard to keep our rights up that we can all be out there saying whatever the hell we want, And I just really think that's very, very important. So that's the only pitch I really want to give as far as Type 1 Radio, Sonic, and Fight Check and Steve in England get all the credit for that. I'm just there helping out, keeping things going, adding my 2 cents worth in. And as you guys know, I'm so shy, it's hard to get me to talk.
Yeah. That's what I love about you, Carolyn. You have this sarcastic sense of humor, but at the same time, it doesn't always come across as being sarcastic. I want your honest opinion about something. What do you think is going to happen now that they're admittedly using Predator drones here in the good old USSA?
Okay, now I was going to say I did a big thing on my page about the so-called landing of the drone in Iran. Okay, if you want to talk about that, everybody wants to call it about that. Did you see what
Did you see that they're using the Predator drones inside? They're using the Border Patrol.
Well, they've been doing that for
now.
a long
the sheriffs.
Time now.
Well, I know, but I'm saying they just used it on American citizens. And when originally they were like, they tried to attack this rancher with guns or whatever, and it turns out it was one farmer versus another farmer, and they were just taking their cows. And apparently the family that they were monitoring with the Predator spy drone was one of those families that the government would consider to be terrorists because they grow their own food and, you know, they don't trust the government and blah, 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 blah. So here we go.
Well, I hate to shock people, but when I don't even know how to approach this, but during the Reagan years, and then you had, you know, Bush 41 who wanted to come in. That's why they shot him. And by the way, that wasn't an accident, folks, and we can never talk about that sometime. Hinckley wasn't the only person shooting that day. When I was working, drones were being used within the United States. They've been being used in the United States for the last several decades. They've been being used to monitor people. They've been used to monitor communications, monitor tracking people. The fact that they're admitting it at all, I think it's because they've increased the amount, and they realize now that everybody that's got a cell phone, and, you know, there's so many ways now that people are catching them where, you know, 20 years ago, you're not going to catch them on a camera phone because there weren't camera phones. Okay.
Oh, so what you're saying is that they're actually doing it so much that they have to admit that they're doing it because that I know that they've been doing it, but what you're saying is they're actually doing it so much and that there's such a chance that they'll get caught.
Right. I think
they have no choice but to admit it.
I think the surveillance has increased because they do realize with the grassroots occupiers, not necessarily with all the big urban areas, which are, you know, you got to watch out for the provocateurs. But the grassroots areas have got them nervous. And the fact that they are concerned that people are getting fed up because they are raiding, you know, unpasteurized milk. You're
right. They're raiding raw food places, milk places.
The Amish, for Christ's sakes. You know,
I'm going to cut you off right there, Carolyn, because we're going to break. Stay right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Look up in the sky and tell me if you see remote control spy looking at you. Give it the finger. Say F you, New World Order. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Some of you who may be a new listener or an older listener who might not have heard my interview with Carolyn before and aren't sure who she is, and you've heard her throughout the conversation with me say things like, you know, she's got bone problems and other health issues because of exposure to radiation and other things. Carolyn used to work for the government, or she used to work with government, I should say. And she's she's not just some crackpot, you know what I mean? She's a very intelligent lady, and I can understand how, what they do is they use you, they use you and abuse you. They take you, they use you up and throw you away. Any veteran can understand that. And Carolyn's exposure to different things is, affecting her health now, mainly a lot of it, radiation and other things. So, Carolyn, give a little bit of background on yourself again, just so the listeners kind of understand what happened to you and what you go, like your health issues now that you're going through.
Oh, God. I don't really like to talk about myself. But, okay, let me give a little bit of a background.
As much as you're comfortable with. Much as you're comfortable with.
All right. Well, first of all, first thing I ever want to say, anything that anybody likes about me, I want you to remember my mom and dad, Peter Goyda and Lucille Estelle Jones Goyda, two remarkable people. They're both gone. And I had fabulous aunts and uncles on both sides. Anything good about me, they get all the credit in the world. And I was very lucky. They sacrificed a lot. I grew up with the kind of parents, my mother used to teach me about reading by telling me about how she used to beg her mom and dad for a little bit more kerosene so that she could keep the light on to read a little longer. And that's why I learned to love reading, because I understood from my mom, who had only got to 8th grade, folks, that an 8th grade back then was like equivalent to a goddamn half the, community colleges today, because they used to read, folks. There used to be newspapers that were written so that you had to, your brain had to work. They didn't dumb down these things. And please go listen to Charlotte Isaby on the YouTube. And they're on I've got several of hers. It's on my Friends of Freeman. It's on my Facebook page. Please, they dumbed down the United States on purpose. The old schools used to teach a lot more.
One of the other hosts, we have a show on Monday nights we do called WTF, and a couple weeks ago, one of the other hosts on the network, Joe Joseph, brought on this 8th grade school test from like the late 1800s, and you couldn't get college graduates to pass this thing right now. And this was an 8th grade test. 8th grade, and you couldn't get college graduates to be able to pass this. I mean, he asked like 1 or 2 questions when we were on air, and all of us on air were like, we can't answer that. But we knew we were going to fail it. We didn't try to pretend like we were going to be like, well, we know all this. No, we don't. We've been dumbed down, and Charlotte talks about that in her book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. You can get it free PDF at deliberatedumbingdown.com. I don't remember the other site, her son's website, but on Deliberate Dumbing Down, there's a link to it. But her videos are up on YouTube. I have the videos that Jones did. His crew interviewed her. It's amazing because she sits there and talks about what they're going to do. And I know you call me a baby because I'm in my mid-30s, but when I was a kid, when I was probably, I would say, 11, 12 years old, they started to switch things around and, look for the quote-unquote problem child. And by the time I graduated high school, they had this whole new educational testing crap and all this other crap already implemented. And I graduated in the 90s. So a lot of people, that they try to blame education's horrible reforms on George Bush Jr., W., that's just ridiculous because this stuff was going on back in the 80s when Reagan and, he signed that pact with Russia, with Gorbachev, to Sovietize the American school systems. And, look at us today and look at Russia today. Russia's more, quote-unquote, Americanized, and we're more Sovietized, right? Now we got the military being allowed to black bag people. They're teaching people that, through DHS, see something, say something, crap, that your next-door neighbor could be, Al-Qaeda. I mean, this is complete and unadulterated horse crap. But there'll be morons out there that buy right into it. Okay, I heard Carolyn Rose Goyda on the radio. She must be a terrorist, bro. I mean, that's what you're going to deal with. Or someone that's pissed at you. What happens when someone has a personal agenda against you and they abuse this? Oh, that would never happen. Oh, wait a minute. That happens all the time.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at you because I was actually talking to you. I was listening to you. I'm listening to about 5 chats, and I'm also listening to Jimmy give me stuff. And I'm just going to give you some gruff because what you're saying is absolutely on target. But, we need to get people to pay attention to what's going on now. And I'm just going to shoot you again. Because actually you threw it to me when Jimmy is sending me a note. So I got about 5 things to say. So you tell me right now, Popeye, where you want me to go.
Well, let me ask you this, Carolyn. Do you think that, do you realize, let me rephrase this, do you realize that we're under martial law?
Of course
they
do.
signed this bill. We're under martial law now. They're just not saying it.
I've been talking about that for a long time. And so have everybody. And that's why people say, oh, Alex is this, or, this person's this, but I'm going to tell people, listen to Jim Mars. Everything Jim Mars has ever put out, I found great. Peter Levenda. I think Joe Farrell is excellent. I think you do great stuff. I think Bob Tuskin does great stuff. I think that Frater tries to get good stuff out. And the thing is, we need to get this out to more people because the core is, it's like, if we don't wake up... You think they're going to
start shutting the internet down now that they have their little martial law bill?
Well, but the thing is, we can't, people freak out about that. But, okay, yes, we have to address that by contacting. When that happens, you got to contact your local newspapers, what few there are, because, there's been a monopoly now. They've been buying up newspapers. And where has been the United States Justice Department to stop the monopoly in newspapers? Because they got a monopoly of newspapers, magazines, and television and radio. But, hey, that doesn't matter. If you start writing your radio, email them, fax them, snail mail them, your radio, your TV, your magazines, your newspapers in your area, and also start paying attention to publishers. They're starting to buy up for the last 5 years, publishers. So do whatever you can to promote local bookstores in your area, promote local newspapers in your area. And if the papers in your area don't put those subjects in the paper, you write the editor. And keep writing the editor. And ask your friends to write the editor, even if you send them the note and say, this is what I want you to do. Please include this. We need to let them know, because they're just really, I don't mean to insult cockroaches, but they're like bugs. You turn the light on and they scurry under the counter, okay? If we put the light on these people and start telling these people to pay attention to what's going on and start addressing
things will get better. I agree, Carolyn. I'm going to cut you off right there, though, because we're going to break. Hang on right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Carolyn, being that you were involved, I would say you worked not for the government, but let's say you worked with them. You were exposed to, not being, physically, but I guess you could say physically. You were exposed to certain things that, like maybe technology or let's say secrets that other people weren't. What was the craziest thing that you saw that you can talk about without worrying about any retribution being paid to you for it?
Wow, that wasn't the question I was expecting. Gosh, I'd almost have to think about that, because I had gotten things brought to me in my desk. It was kind of interesting. I had a great VP. He was an original boss, director boss, and he became a vice president. So he wanted me to review things and then write him summary. So I would have these people show up with briefcases, attached to their hands, their arms with, handcuffs, and everybody signing for everything. I'd have my own cabinet. And then I also worked on some things where they would just set me in a room and give me some information and say, here, read this, and then project what you see is going to happen or what this and that. And so, and then I did work on the, some things with the Falklands and things with the Gulf and everything else. And it's like, gosh, what is the most unusual thing? I've talked to astronauts and cosmonauts. One of the coolest things I ever did was sit there with Valentina Tereshkova on a bench in Leningrad and talk about how every astronaut or cosmonaut I ever talked to had seen things in space that didn't belong to them or to us. So, that's pretty weird. I talked to Edgar Mitchell. I do believe he believes he went to the moon. I don't know anymore. I really don't. I used to believe they did. I don't know anymore. I know he believes he did, but I also know he's an honorable man. And he was an incredible person, too, by the way. He actually risked his life many times. The guys like George McGovern did, too, but nobody ever hears about it because he wouldn't. Do you think they don't promote themselves.
Do you think I don't know. But I've heard we went to the moon later.
I know that some of the images from the original landing were fake. That I know.
Yes. Well, I know that they admit that they faked some of it. So I figure maybe they faked it just to kind of win the space race or whatever. And then eventually,
what people don't even understand is the Soviets got there first. The Soviets got there with a robot before we ever got there.
Did you ever hear Buzz Aldrin's band? You ever see?
But we never broadcast those pictures in the United States.
You saw that, right? You ever see that video? Where he's like, "Oh, the real question is who built the monolith on Mars?" And the guy on C-SPAN is just like, "Huh?"
Well, you know what? Believe it or not, I was watching that. I always watch that Washington Today on C-SPAN. I think it's an excellent show, by the way. And I recommend C-SPAN to everybody. And I recommend PBS and Nova and Frontline. And please promote these things so they don't cut them off, okay? We need POV on PBS. We need all the venues we can. We don't need to get rid of them. We're going to cut things. Cut the bullshit. We're spending a couple $1 million a year in every day, not every year, in Afghanistan, and Somalia, and Sudan, and Libya we just took over, and in all these other places. Stop that. Bring our people back from Kosovo. Bring our people back from Korea. But for God's sakes, fund the PBS. And also the C-SPAN and C-SPAN 1, 2, and 3 should be on everybody's cable. And it should be available. Oh, God, somebody's calling me now. They should also be on not just C-SPAN, but it should be on every library. So any of these rich people, anybody wants to take some time, contact Bill Gates, contact Brad Pitt.
Bill Gates would be a waste of time because he's part of the New World Order.
I'm telling you, these guys will get embarrassed. Contact
He doesn't
Apple
care.
now.
He's a Genesis piece of crap.
Contact Bill Gates, contact Angelina Jolie, all these people that pretend they're somebody, even Madonna. And so, you know what? I want you to fund libraries that not only have books, ebooks, but have free internet kiosk capability 24 hours a day. If they put 50 of them,
I have a problem with ebooks because it can be altered. In fact, speaking of ebooks,
but I mean, ebooks. What I'm just saying is that
I give them to people. I have copies of them, but there's stuff like when it comes to the general public, I still think we should do ink and paper. And case in point, Judith is having problems where somebody put an ebook version of her book up on the internet, and it's got over 20,000 downloads already, which kind of hurts her because she needs that to be able to, hop around. And it's very cloak. Yourself, it's very cloak and daggerish to talk to her.
Oh yeah.
So,
we're gonna. Well, you know what? You and me.
She said it altered.
You, me, and her need to do a show together, live.
Well, she said that the ebook version up there is altered. So now they're altering it and they're putting up an unauthorized version up on the on the internet. So it's better to have a physical copy because then you have the physical record.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that a physical copy is a correct copy either. The only reason we want to do e-copies is that they can be done so much cheaper. And as long as we can get people, there's a lot of retired people. There's people sitting around on disability that pretend they're disabled. God damn it, they can sit there and read a book. And they can also, they can sit there and pay attention to a page. And there's a lot of disabled people. There's a lot of retired people. There's a lot of young people. There's a lot of high school kids that really want to do something good with their life, not just play video games. They can look at these sites and make sure that the ebooks are correct. So, there's ways around this. And ebooks are so much cheaper. And, Carnegie tried to do something good by funding libraries. We need that again. So when people sit there and say...
Why can't we fund everybody to have a physical?
Because it's not gonna. It's too expensive.
Have a place to house a physical copy. But
it's too expensive.
I understand it's too expensive.
Wait, we can have all the paper books. We can have somebody else fund paper books, and then hopefully it'll be hemp paper.
What's more expensive? Wait, what's more expensive? Books for education or billion-dollar bombs that travel around?
Right, okay, but let's make sure. Okay, we're gonna publish hemp versions of all these books because hemp paper is better and it lasts longer.
Yeah,
and hemp is better anyway. But we need to get the ebooks out. We're going to have people
makes the book more expensive.
Hey, if we have 5
answers to that, don't you? My father always used to say, "You buy cheap, you get cheap." So,
but if we had 5 mirror sites and we had volunteers to make sure that the mirrored sites are kept clean, you could get these out.
Well,
and then more people get the
that's
book.
the biggest thing. If you
And they
could get
can still send information and money to the people
Carolyn,
in
if you
desperate
could get
need.
people to volunteer for anything, you know how fast we'd win this? If we could get like 30% of the population to just get off their asses and do something.
We can when we tell them what to do. Popeye,
I know.
most people don't know what they want to help. This is something they could do. They could, and it doesn't cost anybody money because a lot of people don't have the money. They could volunteer to say, I will check the website and make sure that nobody's changed the pages. Really, I'm serious. There are people willing to do.
You'd have to have people that would have certain access, and then they'd have to go through a vetting process to make sure that there wasn't some.
No, none of this vetting shit. You just ask people.
The problem is what happens if you? That's like having Wikipedia, Carolyn. Though that's the only problem is that's like having Wikipedia. Wikipedia is the most non-useful source of information because I could sign on there and change anything. If you notice anybody of any importance in history, including Judith, all their stuff is screwed with on Wikipedia. So that's not a real good place. You know what I mean? You have to have some sort of vetting
you realize
process.
how many people are? You know how many people are on disability? How many people are high school and college students? All you need to do, and doesn't cost anybody. Just say, listen, I want to ask 100 people to check this thing out and keep it clean. We're talking about a planet with 6 billion people.
I wholeheartedly agree. You only need a few people to do it. I completely concur. 110 bazillion%. The problem is
what's your angle? Are you a devil or an angel? And I say both.
Sometimes people say they will and then they don't show up and other things. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't sit back or hesitate to react to the impact. Many taking a nap. In fact, they would fake an attack to make way for the Patriot.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the final segment of tonight's edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is December 14th, 2011. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight has been a little more relaxed, kind of just hanging out. Like I said, I've had a few days off. Getting myself mentally prepared for the next month and a half, 2 months, because I have to have, but within the next 6 months, I have to have 2 surgeries. I can't obviously have both of them at the same time because that would really be bad. It's on both my wrists, and then that would really disable me. So you do one at a time. But you have to get yourself into a place to get ready to deal with all that horse crap. Plus, I had a move, which was no easy task considering I need surgery on both my wrists. So it took me a little extra time to get things done. And I had to set up the new studio. So now it's all set up and good to go. Tonight, I just wanted to kind of be chill and mellow and hang out with Carolyn and kind of, shoot the breeze. And we covered a few important subjects, but I didn't want to get too heavy and too not on my first day back. I wanted to kind of ease into it, as it were. I'm sitting in the shallow end on the stairs, and I'm only waist deep in the pool, and I haven't gone into the deep end yet. Friday will be the deep end. Friday I'll be back. But I need to be a little more mellow. And I love hanging out with Carolyn because she's very mellow. She's very chill. But you're so full of knowledge, Carolyn. You're like an encyclopedia that likes to have a Colt 45 once in a while.
Hey, you got to stay lubricated. I just didn't. We're not going to bring up that you're having wrist problems. Okay. I need to talk to your wife later off show, and we're going to work on that. Okay? All right.
Touché, Carolyn. Touché.
Yeah. What can I say? And Jimmy, I hope you're there. Jimmy's in the background. He doesn't want to come forward, but we all know that, he's doing some things too, and he's probably going to need some carpal tunnel work too. But, hey, I just want everybody to understand that, when we're sitting here talking about this stuff, there's a lot of serious stuff. Okay, and I talk about my Facebook page. I really do try to use that to get out fun and to get people to notice the magic and the miracles and the happiness in this world. But I'm going to stick you right in the face about the USS Liberty. And I'm going to tell you about, the skyscrapers going up in Korea that looked exactly like the 9/11. And it's like right in your face stuff. And I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to talk about how Tesla and, and the 9 and all those kind of things. So I don't have a website up yet. I'm working on it, but I'm like, go to these Facebook pages. But I want you to keep listening to people like Popeye, like Bob Tuskin.
Well, you guys
like
are getting
Freighter.
a radio show.
There's a lot of people out there trying to tell you the truth, and you got to listen to them.
You guys are getting a radio show off the ground yourselves. Where can, if the listeners want to go, support you guys? I know you have a lot of your listeners listening tonight. Where can they support you guys to help your show get built? You said there's a Facebook page or something that they can go to. Yes, and that would link them. I promise you this. I am going to make you the most ass kicker web Facebook page for your show, because you need to reach more people on Facebook. I know, everybody says, "Oh, it's CIA data mining." Well, so what? They data mine everything. Big deal. But okay. Just right now, I'm Carolyn Rose Goyda. It's really easy. There's only like 3 Goydas. I finally met one of the Goydas in Pennsylvania. He is related to me. He and I are going to be buds for life. There's another Goyda in the Ukraine, which is where my dad came from. Or not my dad, but my grandparents. And we're going to be buds for life. He actually looks like my relatives. It's kind of scary. But right now, just go there. And before the end of the year, I'm going to get my own website up. We're going to do all this stuff. And Popeye's going to be there. Bob's going to be there. The folks from Type 1 Radio, everybody's going to be there. My goal is I'm not looking to make money, okay? At one time in my life, I had $500,000, okay? And I gave most of it away. And I've been dealing with stuff. I'm fighting St. Louis County. In the next couple weeks, if you guys will go there and hopefully, Popeye have me back on. We're going to talk about this. I'm trying to fight St. Louis County. I'm in exile for 2 years. But 3 years I fought by myself, but I've got more people now helping me. Tell them why you're in exile really quick. You have a couple minutes before we go. Tell them why.
Water companies being sold to Bayer Pharmaceutical. It has to do with the pedophile priest issue, which is not just a bunch of horny priests. It's got to do with rich guys that donate to the church, donate to the politicians. And you've gone through some
hairy stuff up there, correct?
Right, and you know what? You got to promise me in the next couple of days we're going to have another show because, we'll talk about why that happened to me, and we'll also. But I don't want me to be the issue. That's my problem because, I don't want to talk about me. I want to get the issues out.
It's not really you, Carolyn, because if you think about it, they made it a bigger issue when they went after you and the things they did to you. So technically, I wouldn't look at it as an issue about you. I would look at it as an issue about corruption, and you're just able to help bring a spotlight to it because it just happens to be happening to you in your personal life because you chose to have the courage to speak out about the corrupt stuff that was going on, including, in fact, we talked about this the last time I had you on, about all the pedophilia and all the child kidnapping and everything else that was going on up there. So that's really, really that's like for listeners that don't know, in all seriousness, Carolyn came on tonight and we at the last minute, we decided just to kind of hang out and be chill, totally, not planned. Just, a little relaxed today. But in all seriousness, she's had some pretty horrible stuff happen to her. And she's a very, very brave individual. So if you guys, if anybody wants to help her little radio show or, if you guys want to help her out with her research and, and to build her, little, whatever, her radio show / I'm sure, she's working on websites and everything else. So she uses Facebook all the time. So if you guys want to help her out, go check her Facebook page out. And I'm sure, Carolyn, there's links there, right, where they can or you can put up there, how they can help you or whatever. In fact, I guess just check her status updates, and she'll keep you guys informed on, spread links or whatever else. Keep an eye on her.
Hey, Carolyn, it's Jimmy here in the background.
Go.
Hello.
Go, Jimmy.
Wow, what a party poop I am. Did I hear you say you had $500,000? I was wondering if you wanted to come to Buffalo and get married.
No, I don't have it anymore, honey.
Oh.
I gave seriously. I'm
Damn.
serious.
I tried.
I can show you the Charles Schwab accounts, and I gave most of it away.
Well,
and I was taking care of my parents, and I had seriously just really up until my mom died 5 years ago, I had enough money to retire on.
Wow.
And I had plans for my very green things in St. Louis because the Butterfly House, the Shaw's Gardens, which is Missouri Botanical Gardens, came out. Mm-hmm. I had created a low water, low maintenance thing, which is very new. That was awesome. And I was feeding all kinds of people in my neighborhood. But see, I got in the wrong people's faces, and that's what that Popeye was alluding to. I exposed the water being sold to Bayer Pharmaceutical.
Right.
I got involved with the priest pedophilia, which is not really a bunch of horny toad priests. It's got to do with a very serious long-term thing, goes over 100 years, basically abusing kids in a very orchestrated, coordinated way.
Mm-hmm. I
I'm
understand.
out of my house for 2 years. I've had to, Popeye's talking about moving on one weekend. I've moved 6 times in the last 3 years. And you lose your mind. You can't find the paperwork you had. And it's like, I've got my pets with me, and people say, get rid of your pets. But I'm like, I'm sorry.
Well, I was calling in I butted in here to be a smartass, but I got to be honest with you. What I just heard for the last 2 hours, Carolyn, you got to keep my contact here because perhaps if you really need to do radio, you need to stay right here, actually.
I'd be more than glad to.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow, there you go, Carolyn. You just got a radio show offer on the air by Jimmy.
On the air.
I did.
I have never.
Show with Popeye and Bob.
let me just say this. I have never ever done this before on air.
Yeah, he's never done that on
Never.
air
In fact, even Popeye, I blew him off for months until he bugged me so badly I had to give him a show.
Jimmy, man, I love you, dude.
I love you too. I know. Great show, guys. Carolyn, it was a pleasure having you on, man. It was very interesting listening to you tonight.
Hey, Jimmy, why don't we all do a show together? We can have Popeye and Bob, and I'm serious.
I might bring you on my show too, man. Carolyn, I'll be in touch with you, okay?
Hey,
yeah, he'll call you.
You got it.
All right. That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night, folks.
We're out of time. Jimmy, thanks for hanging out for the last segment. Carolyn, thank you for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out and listening today. As I said,
keep listening to Popeye. Keep listening to Popeye. The man's telling you the truth.
my cheerleader in the background. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're just chilled out today. Thank you for listening. I promise I'll be a little more on the ball on Friday, but I needed to knock the rust out of the joints after a few days off. I'll see you then.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. When you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Didn't crack a Colt 45. Actually, I think we need to be cracking a few more Colt 45s after today. You remember when...
Lando Calrissian drinks Colt 45. Don't give me any crap.
You remember when, well, speaking of Landau, you remember when another shyster said that he would veto the military defense authorization, the spending bill? That pretty much says the military can come black bag American citizens. Yeah, Obama didn't do that. He did quite the opposite and signed it into law today. So...
Oh, you mean the CIA operative, old Boo? Well, you know, you got to realize, you know, when your mom is a CIA operative, you're a CIA operative, and, you know, your grandpappy back in Kenya helped kill the last elected official in Kenya, and your daddy got a free ride, you know, to come over here and get your mom knocked up because of what your daddy did. You know, you're going to do whatever they tell you to do because he's not calling any shots. He's like the equivalent of Bush 43, you know? The only difference is they haven't put him on a plane and fly him to New Orleans and then Nebraska. I mean, Boo has no clue. I mean, he didn't care about what was going on in the Gulf. You know, Corexic's still being dumped by C-130s. I've got friends that are sending me pictures all the time on my Facebook page. Go there,
you're
folks.
one of them conspiracy theorists, huh? That believes,
yeah, you know.
You believe that, you know, the people in the Gulf, you know, that are saying that they're still spraying. You just believe those people. You don't believe that the government is you know, it's your best interest, Carolyn.
Hey, I just believe the photos people keep sending me live, and they're actually, you know, down on.
It's actually very upsetting. I know what you're talking about. They keep spraying.
Yeah,
those people get sicker and sicker every day, and this is criminal. This is eugenics type crap at its finest.
Well, and they're not only killing people; they're killing the Gulf. And, you know, I get people that are on the boats sending me pictures, and I forward them to other people because, you know, you got to protect people on the boat. Because some of the people out on the boat are used to be shrimpers, used to be fishers, and, you know, they can't do it anymore because these fisheries are dead. You know, they were getting killed by what was coming down through the Mississippi already from all the fertilizer and pesticide and herbicides. Well, okay, now they continue to dump Corexit out these C-130s at a rate that has to be genocidal. I mean, it's like you have to be trying to, I don't know what the word is to kill a marine life. You know, there's no genocide word for that. But you know what? I know a great gal we got to get on. She used to be the key person for promoting it. She's an older gal. We got to get her on before she goes, you know, hits the wall. She's a great gal because, you know, people don't know
you yet. I really haven't posted the Federal Jack or anything because I've been busy unpacking, setting up my new place, and just Monday and Tuesday I needed to take off. I needed to relax. I needed to unplug. I've been doing this for so long without unplugging from it. You know, I'm always doing this 365, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I never unplug. Even for holidays, I don't unplug. I interviewed Judith on Thanksgiving, so I'm always running around cramming stuff in. And I just needed 2 days where, Monday I was just so sore from moving. I didn't want to do anything. And yesterday, I have to honestly admit, I sat and for my birthday was recently, past like 2 weeks, and I had my wife got me this little Roku box. You can like stream Hulu and Netflix, and I have a Netflix account. So I have to admit, yesterday I sat and I watched the boob tube all day and did nothing. And it was the first time I did that, in a long time. I didn't watch cable or anything like that. I went through Netflix and picked out some things to watch. But I got to I had to unplug. You know what I mean, Carolyn? Like, you need to sometimes just unplug, or else you go like insane. Am I right?
Oh, you totally go insane. I had that kind of day to day. That's why I checked with you to make sure we were still on the air today. I was going through all my legal books, trying to get stuff done, and then I was on Facebook because, I throw out about 30 to 100 things a day. I drive people insane, but I was doing all kinds of stuff. And today, is it a full moon? It's not a full moon, but I think it's a full moon. And I'm like you, too. It's like sometimes you just got to back off and just say, gosh, everybody lighten up, because I had a day today where I posted a Celine Dion and Barbra Streisand song, and somehow that freaked out some people that didn't like either of them. And I was telling all my Supernatural fans that I said, oh, wow, maybe she's back being a lounge singer in Quebec. And then somebody else was giving me marriage proposals, and then I had about 15 guys poking at me. They really like poking on Facebook. And it was like, I actually considered just like, shutting down the computer and just like, taking a real long walk down the highway, because today is a weird day in mid-Missouri. It's been cold and miserable, and it's been raining, but it smells like spring. It's like 45, 50, and it's like a really weird springtime day. So I was like kind of having like twilight when I woke up from a nap thinking, God, how long did I sleep? Like Rumpelstiltskin, it was like, maybe I should just turn the computer off. Everybody's gone crazy, and if you're
I've
off
had those
for a
days
couple hours,
where you don't know you don't know your ass from your elbow when you wake up. You don't know what time of day it is. You're totally just. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is December 14th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole, and I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Yes, I am back. I took a few days off. Last Friday, Joe Joseph sat in for me. Last Wednesday, you heard my special interview with Judith Ferry Baker, which I must say was just filled with shocking information. It even kind of blew me away. And on Sunday, I did my first live show here from the new Federal Jack bunker, but I didn't have my board operating. I didn't have my broadcasting headset on, set up, or anything. Everything was still packed up, so I was operating from a laptop. But tonight, I am pleased to tell you I have the command center here about 70%, 72% operational right now. More than operational enough to do my show. So, welcome back. Welcome back to me. I needed to take a few days off. I probably could have been back online. I haven't even updated Federal Jack in a few days. I needed to unplug for a couple of days. In fact, my guest and I were discussing that. And without wasting any more time, I'll get right into the conversation we were having. But let me get my guest on and introduce her. Now, you all know who she is. She's a friend of the program and a Federal Jack, and a friend of mine. She's a great researcher and an all-around awesome lady. And she's been on the show before. I'd like to welcome back Carolyn Rose Goyda. Carolyn, say hello to the listeners.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to have Popeye back on, too. I know, gosh, I just thought that the Men in Black finally got you, and we're, sweating out, Actually, I was kind of hoping I was in your. I was kind of hoping I was in your will. I'd like to get the radio stuff from you when you pass on. So
Yeah, I'm sure some people. I had said that I was moving and that I was, taking off, and I was going to have a couple. I said last week that my show was going to be the pre-recorded interview I did, and I had actually had a different interview planned for Friday that I had pre-recorded, but we had technical difficulties. So at the last minute, two of my fellow hosts here on Orion stepped up to the plate. Both of them veterans, and, with like maybe 45 minutes notice, both of them stepped up and filled my spot for me on Friday. So I really have to say thanks to Joe and Ken. And then Sunday I did my show live, but like I told you, just out of it, you're like, huh? Where
and everybody was like, yeah, and everybody freaks out, like, where are you? You okay? Because, you've got things where, you stir up the pot, and you got people after you. I mean, certain hotel chains won't even let your website through. And, I'm sitting here with death threats every other day, so it's kind of a, I got to admit, and I'm at a no hotel motel, which, like I said, is going to make the best Stephen King, like a Britcom is what it needs to be, because, oh, gosh, there's fire engines, policemen, people. Well, the average hookers and all the other stuff you see at a hotel motel. So it's like every once in a while, in the middle of
things.
What's that? Well, I'm in the middle of a chat with a bunch of people, and I'll have to say, wait a minute, I got to go out. There's police at the door, or just a minute, there's a ambulance next door, or hey, hang on, the hooker next door wants to borrow some change. Things like that. So people tend to freak out when I'm not on for a couple hours, or God forbid if I'm gone for 2 days. But I kind of like the love and the concern. But every once in a while, you go a little nuts. That's why I'll let the listeners know that before we got on, I had to go to the front desk, get my key renewed. And the front desk was so nice. The gal up here, Barb, I hope she's listening. She's the neatest person at the Travelodge. She gave me some cookies, and they're still warm. She just baked them. And so I got coffee, but I knew we were going to talk tonight, so I went across the street. I counted out my change, and I got 4 Colt 45. So if anybody else is listening, opening yours up too at the same time, because I figured...
Crack your Colt 45, Carolyn.
Yeah. This is live radio, and we need special effects. There you go. I saved that for special effects. I've been waiting to open that sucker, I tell you. And I've got the coffee and the cookies.
That was perfect timing, too, because we're going to break as you crack your beer.
That's it. Hey, anybody gives me any crap, remember, Jesus made water into wine, not the other way around.
You can see.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes it's good to take a few days off and get some perspective on things. I'm not saying that you have to completely tune out of reality. I did keep an eye on things, but I had to get a few things settled, and sometimes the only way to do it is to unplug. I completely ignored my phone yesterday. I didn't care. If it was super important, somebody could text message me, and I would see it, and then I could be like, all right, I'll call them back. But if you called me yesterday and I ignored you, it was nothing personal, but I needed to get some stuff done, and I just needed to get my brain back in functioning capacity. Sometimes you need to take a couple days off and just go, or do a Carolyn just